you ever caught yourself scrolling through Instagram or TikTok for hours, only to realize you don't even remember half the posts you just liked? Or maybe you've been binging on your favorite Netflix series, and by the end of it, you feel more exhausted than entertained. Sound familiar? Well, if it does, you're not alone. The culprit? Dopamine overload.
And how it causes us to be addicted to things like our phones, and in particular the idea of dopamine detoxing.
But hold up. Before you panic and think I'm here to tell you to quit social media and throw your phone out the window, relax. We're not cutting dopamine out of your life. We're just gonna reset how your brain interacts with it. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll feel like you've unlocked a superpower where life's simplest pleasures feel exciting again.
So in this video, we're going to be looking at what dopamine is, the science behind how to control dopamine, and 4 actionable tips that will hopefully help boost your overall productivity.
So what exactly is this magical reset we're talking about? It's something called a dopamine detox. And no, it's not as scary as it sounds. You won't be sitting in a dark room with no phone, snacks, or fun. Instead, we're going to reset your brain's dopamine levels so you can stop relying on quick fixes and start genuinely enjoying the little things. Like that morning coffee, a walk in the park, or even a good conversation with a friend. Sound intriguing? Great. Let's dive into how this dopamine detox can change the game for you. Dopamine detox. What's that? So, you've probably heard about dopamine detoxing by now. Sounds like you're cutting out all dopamine, right? Nope. If you did that, you wouldn't even be able to move, let alone binge watch your favorite shows.
Now, dopamine is involved in a bunch of different things, including movement and sleep and mood, but most importantly for this video, it's involved in reward and motivation.
What we're really detoxing from are the activities that spike your dopamine levels, like social media, video games, or endless YouTube rabbit holes. Yes, I'm guilty too.
Like social media, for example, our dopamine system can be manipulated by social media companies to change our behavior and keep us on these apps for way longer than we should.
The idea is that by reducing those high dopamine triggers, we can reset our brain's baseline levels and start appreciating the smaller, slower pleasures in life again. Think of it as giving your brain a little vacation from the fast-paced, dopamine-packed roller coaster it's on every day. Imagine taking a break from the non-stop dopamine bombardment, and suddenly, things like sipping a cup of coffee or hearing the birds chirp during your morning walk feel incredibly rewarding again. It's about recalibrating our brain so the everyday joys, the moments we usually overlook, become deeply satisfying again. But how exactly does this happen? How do these dopamine spikes influence our brain? Well, here's a quick science fact. Your brain doesn't just react to dopamine hits with happiness. Over time, it adjusts its sensitivity. The more you flood it with dopamine, the more it raises the bar. And soon enough, the everyday experiences that once brought joy feel a little meh. Before we jump into what is called a dopamine deficit, click the subscribe button below so you never miss a healthy habit to add to your daily life. Why you're in a dopamine deficit and why it sucks. Picture this. You're trying to enjoy a quiet evening reading a book, but you keep getting this itch to check your phone. Maybe just one quick scroll on Instagram? That's your brain's dopamine system going haywire. Here's the deal. When we constantly bombard our brains with dopamine from things like TikTok, junk food, or that new Netflix show, our baseline dopamine levels rise. The problem? You need bigger and bigger hits of dopamine to feel any joy. A simple walk in the park or catching up with a friend, meh, they just don't cut it anymore. This state is called a dopamine deficit, and it makes it harder for us to enjoy the little things in life, like savoring a cup of coffee or finishing a project without checking our phones every 5 minutes. But don't worry, there's hope. We can fix this. Think about the last time you did something you used to love, but it just didn't give you that same feeling of satisfaction. Maybe it's playing your favorite game, watching a movie you used to enjoy, or hanging out with friends. Suddenly, it feels dull. That's dopamine desensitization working its sneaky magic, raising the bar so high that simple, fulfilling activities lose their charm. The solution? A dopamine reset. How to reset your dopamine. 4 simple steps. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do I actually reset my dopamine? Don't worry, I've got 4 easy, actionable strategies for you. Let's break them down. Step 1. The rule of pain before pleasure.
Do an uncomfortable thing first. You're more likely to then experience the pleasure of doing the more pleasurable thing afterwards.
Yeah, I know. Pain doesn't sound fun, but hear me out. If you do something a little uncomfortable first, like a workout or a cold shower, you'll enjoy the fun stuff more after. Think of it like this. If you go for a run before binging your favorite show, that show will feel way more satisfying. Plus, bonus points. You're tricking your brain into appreciating the simple stuff again. This isn't just psychological, it's a biological reset. When your brain experiences discomfort or exertion first, the reward afterward feels much more significant. It's like your brain is primed to enjoy the good stuff more intensely. Step 2. The rule of avoidance.
And so the rule of avoidance is basically to cultivate moments where you are not doing a high dopamine activity, and you're ideally slowly phasing out those activities.
For a full dopamine reset, the key is to avoid those dopamine spiking activities for a few weeks. Yeah, that might mean deleting TikTok. Don't panic just yet. By doing this, we lower our baseline dopamine levels, so we don't constantly crave bigger and better hits. Think of it like a cleanse, not from food, but from the hyperstimulation we've become so used to. It's not forever, just long enough to give your brain a break from the constant barrage of high dopamine activities. When you return to those activities, they'll feel novel again. Oh, and pro tip, get rid of your triggers. If your phone's notifications constantly suck you into social media, it might be time to silence those buzzes and dings. Trust me, you'll thank me later when you're not checking Instagram every 30 seconds. Step 3. The rule of barriers.
So avoiding something entirely can be really hard, especially if you feel kind of addicted to it. So another way to help with this is to put up barriers and personal rules.
Okay, cutting out all the fun stuff can be hard, but this trick makes it easier. Create barriers. You can set time limits on your phone apps, like no Instagram after 9 p.m., or keep all your snacks out of sight if you're trying to curb late night eating. The idea here is to create physical and mental barriers so you can still enjoy life, but with control. Barriers don't have to be extreme, just enough to interrupt your usual habits. It's kind of like placing hurdles in a race. The race is still doable, but those barriers make you work a bit harder, and working harder helps reset that dopamine balance. Step 4. The rule of boredom.
But the idea behind this strategy is that boredom is something that we should learn to become more comfortable with.
Here's where things get really weird. Try to make yourself bored. Yes, seriously. We live in a world where boredom feels like a crime. We're always reaching for our phones, turning on a podcast, or watching a YouTube video. But giving your brain a chance to be bored lets your creativity thrive. Some of the best ideas come when you're just daydreaming, not endlessly scrolling. Science shows that allowing boredom encourages your brain to think more deeply and even problem solve better. So next time you're on a walk or chilling on the couch, resist the urge to grab your phone. Let your mind wander. You might be surprised by what pops up. And that's it. By following these 4 simple steps, you'll have a solid strategy to reset your dopamine levels and start enjoying life's little pleasures again. No more needing constant stimulation to feel good. You'll actually want to take that walk or read that book. The best part? You'll realize that joy doesn't always come from a huge dopamine spike. It comes from moments that feel real, grounded, and simple. You're rewiring your brain to appreciate the everyday wins. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs a dopamine detox. We all know someone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay balanced, stay focused,